for all.
Yeah, I can see you again.
Okay, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Town Moderator John Kurland for a joint meeting with the school committee and the select board.
Thank you. The purpose of this joint meeting is to elect fill Don Ayers' position due to his unfortunate, untimely passing. It is a 3-year term that expires on March 31st, 2025. I will note for the record that all of the members of the Select Board are present, as are all of the members of the school committee. At this point, I will entertain any nominations for the vacated position of Neshoba Valley Technical High School School Committee.
I'll nominate Claire Janot.
Claire Janot, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do I hear any other nominations? Okay. We will close the nominations. Can I have a vote on closing the nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? So at this point, the nominee will have an opportunity to make a few comments to both boards.
Good evening, I'm Claire Janot. I've been well known to all of you at this point. This is my 3rd time in less than 3 years standing here for the seat at Neshoba Tech, this time for the permanent seat. I've really enjoyed my opportunity to contribute to the committee. They've expressed some desire for me to put my name in for the permanent seat. I work hard as an alternate, would love to be able to represent Chelmsford with a vote. I don't expect to fill Dawn's shoes. I don't think anybody can. But Dawn was very helpful to me when I first ran or considered joining the committee, and I think I'd humbly like to think he'd be happy to see me standing here tonight for his spot. So I'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I will first poll the Chelmsford School Committee. All in favor of appointing Claire Janot as the permanent representative of the, permanent for the, until March 31st, 2025, the Neshoba Valley, yes, full member. All in favor? Aye. Unanimous. And Chelmsford Select Board, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. As a result of the appointment of Claire Janot as a full member, we now have an opening for an alternate member. And if there are any nominations for an alternate member, I will entertain them at this point.
I'll nominate Pat Wojcik for the alternate member.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any other nominees? There being none, I will entertain a motion to close the nomination. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. The Chelmsford School Committee, all in favor of appointing Patricia Wojcik as the alternate representative to complete an unexpired 3-year term that ends on March 31st, 2025. Please signify by saying aye. Aye. Unanimous. Select Board, same.
Aye.
Congratulations, both Ms. Wojcik and Ms. Janot. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn this joint meeting. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, it's 6:04 PM, and we will go back to the select board agenda. And first up, we have public service announcements.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Phil, are you doing the open?
yes.
So we have the Open Space Stewardship Day Before Thanksgiving Walk.
Good evening. I'm Phil Stanway. I am the lead steward from the Chelmsford Open Space Stewardship, formed in 2005, and since then we've been doing public service events and walks for the last 16 years. 2 o'clock on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, we have the Day Before Thanksgiving Walk. will be gathering at Janet Road in front of Thanksgiving Ground Forest. It's a 1-mile walk in. We'll meet at the Historic Rocks. We will have Fred Merriam doing the history of Thanksgiving. Troop 74 will be there giving out free hot chocolate. We expect about 300 people there. For those with mobility issues, you can come in from Gary Road, and it's a 5-minute walk. It also kicks off the amazing decorated winter trees scavenger hunt. We have 26 trees decorated across 20 open space in town, and there's a scavenger hunt to find those. And then on Saturday, we're having a walk at Thanksgiving Forest out to the stone forts just beyond Great Brook. Those forts we're not sure how old they are. Some people say they're colonial, some people say high school kids built them. But there's about 12 of them out there. It's a fun walk. That's about 1.5 miles. That'll be 9 a.m. on Saturday. All events are fun, free, and dog-friendly. So I hope to see people there. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Okay, Ken, next up we have the,
Yes, next up, we have the Vinyl Square Decorating Committee is pleased to announce this 2022 holiday event, the North Chelmsford Common Tree Lighting Event, which will be held Saturday, December 3rd, 2022, will start at 4 p.m. Please join us for music, snacks, and Santa. Classic neighborhood fun for all. Bring your family and friends. And they're still looking for volunteers if you'd like to assist by joining the decorating committee. That'll be on December 3rd. And they're looking for people to take up the slack there. They have some people, this will be their last year, and they're looking to continue the event. And if you're interested, you can reach out to Brian Creamer, and that's brian.f.creamer@gmail.com for more information. But we look forward to seeing everybody there on Saturday, December 3rd for the tree lighting and the events on the common there. And our last public service announcement is the tree lighting or the on December 4th here in the Common. So that's Chelmsford celebrates the holidays, start the holiday season by meeting and greeting your neighbors at the Chelmsford Annual Holiday Prelude. The annual holiday prelude will take place throughout the town center and Common from 4 to 6 p.m. with the tree lighting at 5 p.m. This year's prelude will include the traditional horse-drawn and tractor hay rides for the entire family, free goodies, face painting, and performances by various groups scattered throughout the center and Common. There will be so much to see, sparkling lights, happy faces, and of course, Santa. Please join us and help spread the holiday spirit. Admission to most events is free to the public. Donations are greatly accepted. Free photos with Santa, sponsored by the Chelmsford Dog Association. Photos can be downloaded from the CDA website, photo gallery, at www.chelmsforddog.association.org. So 4 p.m. that night, Santa arrives. 5 p.m. the lights get turned on, and there's a lot to look at if you want to look at the rest of the flyer online. Just so many different events to do throughout this Common in the village. So please join us that night.
and there's one more, but there's no flyer.
Oh, I should know about that one. On December 4th from 4:30 to 7 p.m., the Hanukkah Story Walk will take place at Sunny Meadow Farm. This will be, I think, the second year for that event. It's a nice event up at Sunny Meadows, and they have a lantern walk throughout the campus up there. So please join them on December 4th. All are welcome, and that's from 4:30 to 7 p.m.
Okay, next up, we have public input. Is there anyone here or in the Zoom room who would like to speak during public input? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to committee vacancies.
So for the week of November 21st, we have the following vacancies available. The Arts and Technology Education Fund has one unexpired 3-year term. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee is looking to fill one 3-year term. The CCA Advisory Committee has 3 seats available. Those are 1-year terms. Commissions on Disabilities has one 3-year term. Community Action Plan Committee, Program Committee has 4 1-year terms. Community Preservation Fund is looking to fill one 3-year term. Council on Aging has one unexpired 3-year term and 2 3-year terms. Cultural Council has one unexpired 3-year term. Holiday Decorating Committee has 2 1-year terms. Parade Committee, all applicants are welcome. Those are 1-year terms. Those end each July 31st. Permanent Building Committee has one 3-year term. Recycling Committee has one 1-year term. If you're interested in serving on a town board or committee, please complete an online application available on the town website. For more information, you can go to the town manager's office here at 50 Billerica Road, or you can email tmoffice@chelmsfordma.gov, or call 978-250-5202, or you can look online.
Thank you, Ken. Next up, we have the public hearing for the Class 2 auto dealer's license at Drumhill Autos. Is-
Good evening. My name is John Fotopoulos. I am the president of Drumhill Autos, located in 1184 Westford Street in Lowell, Mass. I am here this evening seeking licensing at 123 Princeton Street in North Chelmsford, Mass. For additional automobile sales.
Does the board have any questions?
So I noticed the number is, what, 145?
120, ma'am.
120. That seems like a lot more than has been there before. There is-
The licensing was for the front part. The back was for service. We're not servicing automobiles. We plan on utilizing the facility to store the vehicles for sales, for the additional room that's present in the back, which is on or about twice the size of the front.
Okay.
I
But
think-
doesn't your application say you do service?
I'm sorry?
I thought your application had said you do service.
We do, outside service. We don't service there, but we have an outside service facility currently for our existing
So you're
business.
not on site?
No, sir.
Okay.
We don't plan on doing any servicing at that facility.
So the garages in the back won't be used?
No, sir. Just for storage of, for vehicles.
So you store the vehicles there and then you move them somewhere else to do the service?
Correct.
A lot of
We
dealerships
service them
do that.
first, and then we put them up for sale. According to state law, we go through the vehicles first, make sure that they're deemed safe and reliable for resale purposes, and then we put them up for sale. Otherwise, they'll all have a sticker saying, not for sale, not for resale purposes, because they haven't gone through our shops yet. I've been in business for 30 years.
And just to be clear, when the old permit was, we had if I remember correctly, the transmission shop was in the back, and the
Correct.
sales were in the front, and that's why we kept it separate. And now what he's saying is that I think the transmission shop's no longer there, so you're going to use the whole
Correct.
building and all the property for
Correct.
just the sale of cars.
Correct.
I had a question, and I see Paul just stepped out. I tried to call Jose today, but I didn't reach him. So the building inspector made a comment about the applicant being advised to provide accessible means per ADA, even if it isn't needed. Are you disability accessible? ADA.
Yes.
What does this comment mean?
Honestly, I didn't look at that.
You need to come to the podium where the mic is. And we just need your name and
How are you?
address.
My name is Christy Fotopoulos, John's wife. I did speak with Jose, and Jose had said that as long as we weren't changing anything or having any construction plans, which we don't have plans for that, he said that it should be fine. He said, we're ground level. He said, as long as you're not doing construction or
any changes.
renovating,
Yeah, changes.
making any changes.
Okay, so you're not doing anything to physically change the structure of what's there?
No.
But if
Not-
you
no.
were to do that in the future, then he would take another look at accessibility and code and everything?
Yeah, that's, when I spoke with him, that's what he had said to me.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
I mean, now, that was Jose, and I understand that no construction. Evan's comment, though, showing a diagram that says he can reasonably fit 120 cars.
So if you go down further
there's
in the
another doc,
packet,
yeah.
there's some correspondence between Evan and Christina and the fire chief,
Mm-hmm.
and Evan withdraws his comment. And I spoke to Chief Ryan today, and he confirmed that things are still as they were when Captain Hool visited the property. It's,
Okay.
right here, Ken, it says, "I withdraw my original comments if fire prevention is okay."
Okay, I'm familiar with the site. I
I
just,
also called Evan, he didn't call me back.
yeah, I just,
Go
the
ahead.
120 is going to be tight there, but I don't
Well, I'm
want
just looking at the sketch. They get a sketch that will actually accommodate more than that if it's correct.
Say that again, Mark?
There's a sketch right here that shows, yeah, and I think if you count them, I think there's actually more than 120 there, if that's correct. I don't know.
Some of them were actually parking spots for
Just open
designated parking spots, correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Are
there's
there more
definitely
than
space.
120 on the sketch?
I don't believe so, no.
No, then there isn't, because I didn't know that those were open parking spaces.
So the ones in the front are for customers and employees, right next to the building.
Who chose the 120? Was that you?
Yes.
I thought what I had read is you were going to be moving vehicles there from another location?
Well, at the current time, for the time being, if licensing does occur, we have an overflow of automobiles at our current location right now. And business is very good, and we're trying to expand, and we're going to be, putting half and half at one point in time. If it's snowing out and we expect a big storm, we would consider putting all of them at one location, cleaning, and then putting them back.
Moving them.
It's just a lot easier for us that way. It's a lot easier to split them up half and half.
Anything else from the board? This is a public hearing, so I'll welcome public comment at this time. And I'm not seeing anyone in the Zoom room or this room.
That's-
If there's nothing else, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the Class 2 auto dealership
Public
license.
hearing.
Oh, make a motion to close the public hearing. Sorry.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
All right, so with that, I'll make a motion to approve the Class 2 auto dealer's license for Drumhill Auto, increasing the number of cars to 120 on the lot.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you.
5-0. Good luck. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming to Chelmsford.
Thank you again.
Next up, we have the continuation of the tax classification public hearing. Assessor Frank Green is approaching.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. In your packet were a couple of slides. They were just updated with more recent information, including the information for the small commercial exemption, which created a third tax rate, as it does each year, and just tweaked the numbers a little bit. It was not a huge change, along with updating the excess levy capacity, the work that Darlene had put in. Those are the only two changes.
Is there any discussion before we take public comment? Okay, this is a continuation of a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Sure.
John Harrington, Executive Director of the Chelmsford Business Association. The only comment that I have, we had a meeting just recently, and I know the last time we were before this board, my president asked for 10%. After the fact, we we know the way the economy is, how things are tough out there, but we'd like to keep moving the ball forward to get that number down. With that being said, many of our businesses are family-owned, Chelmsford. They live in the town, so whatever you do, it's going to affect them one way or the other. We're kind of hoping and asking if maybe you could cut back 1%. With us, it still would be moving ahead, and we'd appreciate that if you could. Any questions?
Thank you. Is there anyone else with public input? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion.
Are we going to have a discussion?
Do you want to close the public hearing first?
Oh,
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Okay, I'll open it up for board discussion.
well, I'll start then.
Okay,
Well, this is, you've seen me talk about this many times, and I'm probably going to repeat what I've said many times before. Probably anybody in this room could say what I'm going to, repeat what I'm going to say in my words. So I'm opposed to having a different rate for the businesses as we have had for the past several years. Many different reasons. Businesses, one reason businesses don't use all the services that the other residents do, but they end up having to pay for them, like the schools and the trash and others. Businesses often are subject to other costs that residents are not, such as licenses. They pay a higher rate for sewer. They pay personal property tax, which is a misnomer, as you know, but that the residents do not. They're a good partner with the town. They support the town in so many ways. Whenever we have a need, somebody from the business community always steps forward, or more than somebody, many. They are instrumental in supporting our 4th of July parade, for one. They support Little League. They support other activities in town whenever a need is identified. And I think it's especially detrimental to have the commercial industrial have a higher rate, given that the percentage of commercial industrial in town has been decreasing recently. Not that if we're going up that it should go higher, then they would have a better opportunity. The businesses would spread that burden across more businesses. But as it is, I don't feel it's fair to increase the rate for businesses at this time. So I will be voting, I will be hoping that the rest of this board will take Mr. Harrington's recommendation and lower the split at least. I know we can't lower it all the way to just to no split, but I'm hoping that this board will consider reducing that split rate across the board.
anyone else?
So I'll go next if you want.
Sure.
So I did a little research, and I reached out to many members of the assessor's team in the office there, and they went online and did some checking, but it looks like, from what I can see, only 114 towns in Massachusetts use a split rate out of the 350. In a lot of our surrounding towns keep that split fairly tight. Cities like Natick, they don't have one. Leominster doesn't have one, and they're a pretty large commercial base. In Fitchburg, in order to compete against Leominster, has taken 15 years to bring theirs back to no split. And I know Worcester is probably the worst example of splitting rates, or the best example to not split rates. I mean, they've lost so many business now over the property lines around them to the towns that don't split rates. And then personally, I had the own conversation with my own landlord, who basically said, since she's bought the building, between splitting the tax rate, the increased stormwater fees, and the increases to her water and sewer fees, I asked her why the maintenance of the building has been going down, and she said, well, I'm just not making as much money as I used to. And I think that's part of the studies when we reviewed this years ago, is what we did see is if your vacancy rates don't support a split tax rate, you're just going to get people who move out as they try to raise rents, and then the landlords, are just going to look at it and say, well, I'm not making enough money. And that I think gets shown when we do the questionnaire out to the businesses. You see the rents go down, the cap rates, when you use that math to figure out cap rates to property value, the values will start to come down over, you know, a 10-year period, and then that just gets transferred back to the residential rate. So to that end, after doing, again, some more research and looking at this again and giving it a lot of thought, that's where I guess I end up at the same point as Pat, where I'd look to, if we could help the business community out and lower that. I mean, when we look at the data that came out from inflation in the last few months, the costs to run a business are going up, but the prices charged are not. So that tells us the businesses are getting pinched. And again, it's $15 to the residential rate difference at a 1% shift.
Can I please clarify, what prices charged are not going up?
Well,
see
prices going up, but
all
when you
over the
look at
place.
the differential on PPI increases to CPI increases, the PPI is higher than the CPI. So their costs are going up faster than what the prices are going up. So anyways, that's where I'm at.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
I've looked this over as well, and I am a proponent of having more parity and not having actually a split rate. However, with the assessed value for single-family homes going up from a median home going up 15.4%, it's increasing the average tax, bill for everybody, another $400, very similar to last year. And although I would like to see us making ground against the 1.20, pushing it back, right now I don't feel as though it's prudent to do that to the single-family homes at this point. And I guess I'm more leaning towards just keeping it where it is for this year. And hopefully next year maybe economic conditions are a little bit different, and we'll be able to start to dig back into this. But that's kind of where I'm sitting right now.
George?
Nobody likes to pay taxes. But Ken and myself had a meeting with, a couple of months ago, a month ago, whatever, with the president of the CBA, and, I think he was obviously pitching for lower taxes. But I think I thought we kind of agreed that between us, which is, just a small group of people, but that, if we could drop it to down about, what I think, is it 122? Is that what it is, right?
1.2 right now.
120.
1.20.
120, so I guess you wanted to bring it down maybe one. I misunderstood what John said. I didn't really hear. Did you say one?
He wants to bring it down to 1.19.
Okay. So, I mean, I have no problem. That's, I think, basically what
That's what I heard,
we
or
kind of
1.1.
agreed with at that meeting. But, I mean, I'd be happy with that. I mean, I agree with what he's saying, and it's going to get to where people aren't going to be able to afford to stay here either, so, residents. So, I agree with Mark.
So,
But give him, I'd drop it a little bit.
so I still look at this, it's been like 4 or 5 years since that initial split was put in place, and we've ratcheted it down to the 1.2. I agree with Mark's observation that it's the residential real estate factors that are really going to cause a hard dig on the residents, and I think that, frankly, I think businesses have had time to adjust. They still have the corporate tax rate cut on the federal side when it dropped from 35 to 21%. And I think that the 1.2 is extremely low compared to other municipalities where there's a split rate. And to me, you can argue why the decision went in place in the first place, or whether you support that or not, but I think it's a fair compromise to give the residents who are fixed income some support, and to not keep ratcheting it up on the business side. So I'm not in favor of increasing. I'm kind of where Mark is right now, that I think just looking at the dynamics of everything that's going on, holding it to the 1.2 would be a logical thing to do and to sustain. And I think the residents are also going to start getting hit with sewer fees. When we have the bills ahead of us to pay for the sewer system and the diagnostic work that's going on and the failures that have happened. So I wouldn't, I just think that we need to kind of settle on what we're doing with the tax rate. And it seems to just come up for argument year after year, and I'm not sure that a 1.2 is not a reasonable place to be. Unless we're saying every year we want to just, no matter what's happening in the environment, no matter what's happening with residential real estate, we're just going to keep ratcheting it back down by a point each year.
Well,
And when that has been brought up before, the comment's been made, well, you can't hold a future board to a decision like that. And yet it seems like that's what we're trying to do. So I'm not in favor of bringing it up. I'd be
Right,
okay
I'm
with
not
leaving it
either.
at 1.2. I don't think it should go up any year from the 1.2 that it's at.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you think the residents are going to take a big hit this year?
yeah, I do too, and, like I had mentioned, the change in valuation is significant over all the other years, at 15.41, and, if you look back at that, I'll just, quickly look at it, normally it's probably 4% on average. So that's already giving them a pretty substantial hit there. And that's why, that's the only reason why I think we should really leave it flat for this year. And, I can't speak either to why it was ever pushed where it was, but we are where we are. And I'd recommend keeping it there for right now. I don't think it's, and to your point, Virginia, when you look at the surrounding towns, it's either at parity or it seems like it's at 1.5 or higher.
Right.
So we're kind of playing in a unique space, and it's not that big of a split. And that's the other reason why, between all those factors, I think I'd just leave it where it is.
Well, I think we're going to see commercial and industrial amounts go up higher, much higher than what residential rates are going to be, because there are so few commercial industrial compared to all the residents. I don't think reducing it to 1.19 is.
I wasn't done with my comments, if I could just
I'm
finish that
sorry.
out to your point.
probably cannot.
So the other comment that I had was with respect to the vacancy rates. We get these reports every quarter from Lisa, and our vacancy rates are going way down. And the tax rate is not a deciding factor on whether or not a business comes to town. It's just not. So I have a hard time saying vacancy rates are impacted by this 1.2 split. And I really feel strongly that we need to just take that off the table, because I don't think it's a variable at all, and just look at other factors.
It's interesting when we go through these conversations each year, just some things, maybe someone watching, again, education, you got to separate the business owner from the building owner. Two different people. You and I know that, but I'm just saying for people at home that are watching. And they're different people. In most of the cases, it's different people. But what I do find is I read these studies that come out, and they make the argument, well, it is a factor for businesses. It isn't a factor, and I don't think it's a factor for larger businesses. But I do think it's there was just an article in Stoneham. There was a company that just left and went to Reading because of the property tax rate. But they were a small little mom and pop, and they sold their building. So they were a business owner, and they sold to move to Reading, which had a single rate. So I think it's to say in a broad swath, we do the surveys, what are the factors, but who are we surveying? We're surveying the large businesses on 129, or the surveys I read always talk about larger businesses. I don't think it's a decision for, a drug company or somebody larger, like a Walmart, where they go. But I do think when they look at the prices of rents and things like that, again, it depends if you're in a triple net lease or if you're in
Right.
a set lease. I think they do have factors, so I don't think there's one argument to that or the other as far as, who it affects and where it is in the decision-making. But I think in the smaller businesses that are starting up, that are looking at cost, and that's why I think we hear such the vocal arguments from the CBA, because that's a lot of the smaller business in town. It's not the larger businesses. So just to sort of keep that
But
in
again,
mind.
the tax is on the property, not the business, so where it
No, I
affects.
agree, but-
Where it affects the rental small businesses, and if it's a triple net lease or something like that, where it's being
Yeah.
flowed down.
Right, or when they move in for the first time. in the
And we
land.
do the small, I
Small
mean, I'm
business exemption.
expecting we're going to do the small business exemption again.
Right.
We do that every
Yeah.
year to help.
And I think there's like 144, is it, Frank?
290 small commercial
290 now?
Out of how, 290 out of how many?
434.
434?
It's a lot.
But 67% of all
Can you
commercial.
come to the mic?
This year is the most small commercial exemption participants at 291 versus, probably up 40 from last year. So that makes up about 67% of all the commercial properties get the small commercial. Once again, the exempted part, it's really, the word exempt is sort of a misnomer. It's just 10% of the taxes removed for those participating buildings passed on to those commercial buildings that don't qualify in all remaining industrial, which is about 220 industrial.
So if if I'm looking at this chart correctly, Frank, just to be clear, to go from 1.2 to 1.19 saves the resident $15.
Yeah.
It costs the resident $15, but saves the average business $324.
Yeah, I saw the same thing, yeah.
Yeah,
This is, that's on this chart, Ken?
yeah. Yes. You just go down to the 1.9, and I think you'll see it's 82.50 at 1.9, 82.35 at 2.0, and then the commercial's 42.96 versus 45.18. It's about $30 a month to the commercial, $1.25 to the resident.
Any other thoughts on that comment?
Anything else?
So George, I mean, and Mark, are you opposed to going to 1.19? Or,
I'm not opposed. I do feel like we should just leave it, though.
Yeah.
Personally, I think it should just be left alone, but I don't think it's a hard line. But I would definitely not even consider anything more, personally.
George,
I'd leave it alone.
you leave it alone?
Yeah.
So I think we have three that want to just leave it alone.
Somebody's got to make a motion.
Are we gonna make a motion? Is that-
Do you guys have the motions?
No.
Because if I
I
make the
don't.
motion, it's going to be 1.9.
Make a motion for 1.9.
What do you want to do?
So are you saying that you want to do 1.9?
I mean, if I make a motion,
Pat?
I'd make a motion that we adopt a residential factor of the point 96458.
Which
Yep.
correlates to 1.19.
Yes.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? 3. Mark, you want to make the next?
Make a motion that we adopt a residential factor of 1.20.
No.
Well, you got to do the .96275.
The last column on the right.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if I've got the right one up. What is it? What's the number?
You've got the right one up, I can see it. It's the gray number right way at the right.
Yeah, 9635?
275.
96275.
Yeah, I got the wrong one. This one, the one I'm looking at is not the right one.
Just say .962.
.96.
275.
275.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Passes 3-2.
Yeah, can I have that back?
You can have that back. Yeah, I don't know which one this is. Oh, it was the one in the original package. Here it is.
And then I will make a motion, we do not adopt a residential exemption.
You mean a small business?
Nope,
this is-
residential first.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
And I do make a motion that we adopt a commercial exemption of, what was last year's?
Small, 10%.
Of 10%.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
And I make a motion that we do not adopt an open space discount.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you all very much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Happy Thanksgiving.
The original package.
Okay, next up, we have Select Board appointments. We have 2 applicants for the Clean Energy and Sustainability Committee. Are both applicants here? Okay. If you'd each like to come up to the podium and say a couple words, you're welcome to do that. Oh, I can do it whatever order you want.
Hi, thanks for the invitation here tonight. I haven't done this before, so let me just say a
We
little
need
bit
your
of...
name and address, first of all, for the record.
Okay. Jack Bergstrom, 255 North Road.
Okay.
And once again, thanks for having me here tonight. I'm looking forward to being on this, taking a step into this opportunity. Would you like me to tell you a little bit about my background?
Sure.
Great. Graduated school with an electrical engineering degree. Began my career as a design engineer and spent the last 20-plus years leading development teams, doing kind of collaborative efforts and problem solving, very similar to what we have sitting here in front of us today. I'm here today because I'm passionate about climate change, and I wish to use my skills to make a contribution towards a resolution. I've researched many of the solutions that are out there and have a firm understanding of the technical options, as well as the logistical challenges and the financial challenges associated with them. Recently I had a chance to meet with Badri, and he shared a preview of where things stand today and some of the challenges that lie ahead. He just wanted me to walk into it eyes open, I think, and make sure I knew there were the challenges that are out there and scare me a little bit, but I don't think he's successfully scared me away. It'd be great to join this team and to assist them to roll out not only a technically viable solution, but a fiscally responsible one as well. In my professional career, and there's too many times I've seen great solutions put on the table, but they're just not fiscally viable. And I'd like to use my business skills to help the team and move it forward in that direction so that we can have not only a technically viable solution, but one that everybody around here can afford and will be successful in our 2050 goals.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay,
Great, thank you.
come on up.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jim Walton. I live at 50 Parkerville Road. My girlfriend and I recently bought a house 6 months ago, right in the Hart Pond area. So we're very excited to be here in Chelmsford, and like I said, we're new, but we're very excited. So, so why I'm interested in this exciting position here is I have a passion for sustainability and making positive changes. I love both the technical aspect of clean energy and also the business aspects. And being a member of Chelmsford and, finally being settled in here after 6 months, I would love to be more involved with the community. So some background and why I believe I would be an asset to the committee is because I have an extensive background in clean energy and sustainability. I'm a U.S. Green Building Council LEED accredited professional in building design and construction. I've worked on numerous LEED certified projects to drive energy efficiency and sustainable buildings. So to give you a little bit more background on my career here is I went to Wentworth Institute of Technology with a bachelor in mechanical engineering and a minor in environmental engineering. I was the ASHRAE Club president, which is the American Society of Heating and Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Engineers. That was my time at school, and then ever since school, I started my first real career path was at Trane, the HVAC manufacturer, leading a applications engineering team. So we worked with consulting engineers to design energy efficient buildings and systems. We drove a lot of decarbonization and electrification efforts all around the country, and specifically within New England and Massachusetts. We designed, heat pump systems, ground source heat pump systems, water source heat pump systems, chiller ice plants, building control systems. I worked on managing energy contracting projects within the state of Massachusetts, worked with utility companies to do energy audits, and worked on renewable energy credits at the same time. I helped design chiller systems with low global warming potential refrigerants within the Trane product line. And then finally, I moved on to a new role at Philips Lighting as the Global Sustainability and Quality Manager. In this role, I lead LED efficiency design, circular economic principles such as, reducing, reusing different types of products, and specifically reducing the amount of plastic we use in our products. To date, and it's been about a year, we've successfully reduced the amount of plastic we've used in our products through a program by about 2,000 tons, specifically within the consumer market. So, just simple light bulbs. So I guess that's about it. So I appreciate all your time and your consideration. I would just like to say I would put significant time and effort into this role if selected, and would love to make Chelmsford a more sustainable community.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any discussion?
How many people are on that board?
It's
I believe
9,
is it
right?
I
9?
thought it was 9, yeah.
All right,
So there's one open.
one opening. So it wouldn't be any good it seemed like two good.
Two very good candidates.
Candidates, and, they both want to get involved in town government.
You guys are making this hard on us.
No, sometimes
Let's
we
make
have done that.
Padre do it.
What is it?
No, we've done it.
We conspired.
Is there any, would one extra be would it be a problem?
We've done it for other committees.
And that's what I'm saying. So, and I think that,
This is the second or third time we've had a vacancy on this committee in a year or two, I think.
I
Right, so should we grab the two while we got
Well,
them?
that's what I'm wondering.
Or can you make an alternate?
That's what
And
I'm,
Member?
if somebody drops, then they've still got
Yeah,
9, and we
yeah.
don't do this again.
Could you give him an alternate non-voting member?
yeah, which one?
I don't know.
How many votes do you think are not unanimous?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Make-
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
not like there's a,
It's not a statutory committee.
I'm okay with,
I'd make a motion to approve both.
I'll second that. Oh,
Go
you
ahead.
got it. You got it.
That's all right. That's good.
All right, I'll second it.
okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Welcome, and thank you for volunteering.
You're both winners. Your conspiring failed.
Okay, Paul, next up, we have reports and presentations.
Yeah, we're fortunate to have Jen Melanson, our Community Services Coordinator, come in and provide an update to you and the community. Good evening, Jen. Good to see you.
Good evening, everyone. Jen Melanson. Should have a presentation there, hopefully, on the board. Oh,
If
there it
you're
is.
sitting
Okay.
in the audience, your voices carry, so if, I need you to step out if you're going to have a conversation. And I'm sorry, I just closed your presentation by mistake. Hang on one second, please.
It's all right, I have my own hard copy.
It's okay, I got it.
Come prepared.
There we go.
Did everybody sign it?
Don't give it to him.
I'm doing multiple business here.
All good. All good.
Okay, go ahead, Jen.
Okay.
Let's start again.
Sure. So I realized that it's been almost a year since I've been here before you, so thought it was time that I come and give a little departmental update. So thanks for having me here this evening. I'm going to just, if you want to switch slides, I'm just going to cover a few things, just a few of the major programs that my department has had ongoing throughout this year. Some of them started in previous years and then also ongoing for next year. But before I do that, I wanted to share some data. Some of you know that I'm a researcher and a doctoral student, so I'm a data girl. And recently, a couple weeks ago, had the opportunity to attend the annual meeting for Community Teamwork, Inc. in Lowell, who is our largest human services provider in this area. And Pat was there with us as well as Paul. And they really shared some, if you want to change slides, shared some really staggering, impressive numbers. And I want to keep in mind that these numbers come just in the last year. So these numbers are just from July of 2021 to June of 2022. So encompassing sort of the later part of the pandemic and not necessarily the earlier, first year of the pandemic, which I would have expected these numbers to be even higher in that first year of the pandemic. But some of the numbers that really stood out to me, and this is just assistance, this is assistance provided directly to Chelmsford residents from Community Teamwork, and a lot of the assistance comes as a result of referrals that come directly out of my office, or sometimes they come from Regina Jackson's office with the veterans, sometimes they come even from the health department, but a lot of referrals from this building right here. So 114 households received $970,000 in emergency rental assistance. I think we all know that the housing market was hit terribly hard, especially renters, with the pandemic. Federal government and state government made extra money available to renters in rental assistance, and we've seen a significant amount of money go to our Chelmsford residents. Another number that I thought was high was 71 youth received housing and other services through CTI's Youth Services Program. I have directly referred folks. There were at least one individual who was of youth age. Keep in mind, in Massachusetts, you're considered a youth up until the age of 24, so you can take advantage of youth services. I had a young man that was living in his car in Chelmsford who was under that age, and we were able to get connected to youth services at CTI and be able to get into housing. And then if you skip down and look at the WIC numbers, 299 participants received nutrition, education, and food supports from the WIC program. WIC is a federal program, but specifically $677,000 was spent by WIC participants in Chelmsford grocery stores. So you see money even coming back into the community as a result of the work that CTI does. And then when you look at the total agency financial impact at the bottom of the page, it's really, really astounding. $4,068,707 to Chelmsford residents that come directly out of CTI. So they're really a terrific community partner. I work very closely with them. They provide services from all spectrums of social services. So just wanted to give them a little shout out and thank them for working so closely with me and with our residents here in Chelmsford. If you change slides, Community Teamwork is actually in the process of doing their community needs assessment right now. They do one every 3 years. And so we're just encouraging Chelmsford residents to please respond to this survey. Just as we did, we asked a few months ago, we asked back in the spring residents to respond to the Greater Lowell Health Alliance survey, and Chelmsford had an incredibly robust response to that survey because of our efforts to encourage people to respond. So I really encourage folks to respond. The information there, links to be able to complete this survey. It's very brief. I think it's only 5 questions or something like that. It takes like 6 minutes to complete. And very soon, we'll have some posters in some municipal buildings, a couple here in town, one at the library, one at the senior center, that have the QR codes so that people, if they're just walking by, can quick scan that QR code and complete that survey and make sure that Chelmsford is really well represented in this needs assessment, which really informs the actions that we take moving forward.
When does the survey close?
It's not going to close till February. It's really just a soft opening right now, so it'll be open for a few months, and we'll make sure we publicize social media and everywhere, when it closes. So if you change slides there, next slide looks at the Greater Lowell Health Alliance Community Needs Assessment. This one was just completed, as I said, took place over this past spring, and the GLHA released those results just a couple weeks ago at their annual meeting. And a couple things really stand out to me. I looked at a couple of different areas where folks identified sort of top needed resources in Chelmsford. This is all Chelmsford-specific data. So I work closely with the GLHA again, as I do with CTI, and they were able to send me Chelmsford-specific data so we know, exactly what we're dealing with in our community. And I looked at the areas of top identified resources by residents, top health priorities, and top safety priorities. And it's broken down into age groups, age under 55, over 55, and then over 65. And the reason why it's broken down like that is because we actually had the GLHA come and present this data to our age-friendly committee a couple weeks ago at our last month's meeting. And so we had asked them to break it down specific to senior population for us. But you'll notice under top resources, folks identified in the under age 55 category that the top needed resources were access to healthy foods, and then access to mental health services, and then over 55 and over 65, similar, they also identified access to healthy foods and also affordable and safe housing. Access to healthy foods is something that you've heard me speak about here before. It's something that was identified back in 2019 in the GLHA needs assessment, and so clearly it's still an issue. I would say the pandemic probably played a large part in why that is still an issue, and as well as inflation. So definitely something that we're still working to address, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Under top health priorities, you'll see that all 3 groups identified heart health and mental health as top health priorities. And then under top safety priorities, you'll see that racism, sexual assault, and domestic violence were all identified as top safety priorities. So clearly there's, work to be done, but this helps inform some of the work moving forward and where we need to concentrate our efforts. I will mention that we've already begun to address access to mental health services by recently changing from the William James Interface referral line that we used previously to now we're using a service called Care Solace. It's a little bit more of a timely service. It also is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week service, so that previously with the interface, people could only call Monday through Friday from 9 to 5. With Care Solace, they can call any time of the day or night and get help. It's a multilingual support service as well, so it's available in every language imaginable. And it's for folks who are really looking for mental health services. They help connect people not just to providers, but also to support groups and other types of services. So I'll just share the number with that. It's 888-515-7881. And we share that periodically through social media. People can call my office as well. So on the next slide, you'll see this is just to segue into some of the work that my office does to assist folks. We, looking back at the CTI slide, we saw how much people are receiving assistance and really needing assistance in this community. So one of the things that I've been doing for the past number of years in my office is doing a holiday gift card drive right around this time of year. This is known as the giving season, and people who have the means really like to reach out and to help. And so I just ask if people are looking for a way to give back to the community, they're welcome to donate gift cards to my office, any denomination, and it really can be to any place, but the 4 major retailers that the majority of people use who are in need are Walmart, Market Basket, Hannaford, and Target. And those gift cards are actually used year-round. So they can be used at this time of year for families who need help around the holidays, but they're also used in the spring if somebody has a loss of a job and they've hit hard times and they need help with groceries, or a family gets housing and they have very little money for furniture and they maybe need a bed for a toddler or something like that. I will say that every year so far I've gotten very, very generous donations from the community. This year is the first year that I've run out of gift cards. So as of last week, I am out of gift cards. So the previous 2 years, I had gift cards that I carried over, but I am stock out this year. So the need has been really great, and so my appeal is even greater this year for help from folks who can provide that. I also want to mention, I did not put this on the slide. This was something that actually just came out of a meeting this morning. I wanted to mention that there's something in town called Secret Santa, which was formerly known as the CHS Santa, started by a school nurse at the high school about almost 45 years ago, has now been taken over by her cousin. Her name is Robin Knox. She's been running it for the last, I think, about 11 or 12 years. I spoke with her this morning. She has about 30 families in need. They had 59 families in total that responded so far. 30 of them are still not covered. So if anybody is looking to help out a family or a child this holiday season, they can reach out to my office and I can connect them with Robin and get them hooked up with a child or a family. Moving on, the last time I was here, we talked extensively about this, and happy to say that we're almost there to instituting the new supplemental transportation program that's coming out of the very generous award of ARPA funding that this board awarded to us. This has been a tremendous labor over the past year. I'm sure you all understand that starting something like this from the ground up is a huge undertaking. I think even larger than I was anticipating. But very happy to say that we are well on our way to hopefully be giving rides right after the start of the new year. So just to update, we've named this program the Chelmsford Ride. You can see the logo there. I have hired a transportation coordinator for this position, so that's that part-time, 19-hour-a-week unbenefited position that was approved through the ARPA funding. Her name is Cindy Purnett. She is a current graduate student at Regis College, and so right now she's in this position as an internship placement, but that will end in December, and she will continue on. She's already, we've spoken about, she would like to stay on in this position. So that's terrific. She's doing a very good job with setting up this program and getting it running. We recently got on board with a software program that will help us schedule and dispatch rides. The program itself is meant to be a supplement to the Senior Center's transportation program. So it will run from Monday to Friday from 2 to 6 p.m. However, it will be expanded from just senior age residents to all residents over the age of 18, because as I presented through extensive data last year when I was here, the need is really great across the entire community, not just with our senior population. The pricing will align with the Senior Center's transportation program, so it'll be $3 for in-town rides, that's round trip, $5 for out-of-town rides, round trip, which is very nominal fee, and then we also plan to have vouchers available for hardships as well. We really don't want to have to turn anyone away who is in need of a ride. It will be a car service, not a van service, so we will be able to accommodate manual wheelchairs, walkers, canes, that sort of thing, electric wheelchairs we will not be able to accommodate at this time. Hopefully sometime in the future, we may move to some sort of a van service. We will go to, I think the senior center goes to Westford and Lowell, and obviously Chelmsford. We will expand our service to essentially just about any town that touches Chelmsford, so it'll be Lowell, Tewksbury, Billerica, Carlisle, Westford, and Tingsboro. We also will expand to hospitals outside of the area, all Lowell hospitals, Emerson Hospital in Concord, Leahy Clinic in Burlington, and then the Bedford VA. So right now, we're at the point where we are actively soliciting for volunteer drivers. So anybody who has a good driving record and a valid driver's license is eligible to be a volunteer driver for us. The information is on the screen as to folks can reach out and contact Cindy, the transportation coordinator, to start getting set up to be able to give rides. This is particularly, I think, advantageous to our senior population who likes to take advantage of the senior tax credit program. So I think the tax credit was just increased recently. Folks can get up to $1,500 off of their property taxes if they work the set number of hours. So people can fulfill that through driving for Chelmsford Ride. All drivers will be Corey checked and also have to provide a copy of their driving record, valid driver's license. They all will be CPR and first aid certified. So, lastly, just talk a little bit about what I consider to be sort of my pet project, because it's the very first project I started when I came on board here in Chelmsford. And this was actually in response to the 2019 GLHA survey, which identified, again, that access to healthy foods was one of those services that Chelmsford residents identified as a top needed increase in services for the community. So I won't go into what the program is, because I think most of you know. There's raised bed gardens in the back parking lot. We grow vegetables, we give them away. The great thing about this is after the first year, we combined forces with John Bowles, who's a resident in town. He's also on the age-friendly committee. He's worked extensively with me on the transportation program. He's also heavily involved in this. He started a program, really a grassroots program, that he calls Chelmsford Grow a Row, where he encourages backyard gardeners to dedicate a certain amount of their space to grow produce to be donated to folks in need in the community. So Gardens for Good combines with Chelmsford Grow a Row. And we, during the growing season, every week, we're able to donate produce to really 3 different organizations. On Tuesdays, it goes to Table of Plenty and goes out to folks who take advantage of that community supper every Tuesday evening. I believe on Wednesdays, stuff is dropped off to our food pantry. And then on Thursdays, produce is distributed to various buildings in the Housing Authority. We have typically concentrated on senior housing, but we have also done other, mixed housing buildings with the Housing Authority as well. And the advantage of this is that not only do folks not have to pay for this produce, but it's incredibly fresh. Oftentimes, they're getting it the actual day that it's being picked. So it's really a great way to get healthy foods into the hands of the people who really can't afford to buy it for themselves. Just to give a couple of numbers, I don't think we've compiled the numbers from this past year, 2022, but in 2021, through Grow a Row, which combines the efforts of Gardens for Good, over 1,800 pounds of produce was distributed that season, which amounts to almost $8,000 worth of produce. That's 2021 prices. So 2022, certainly would be a little bit more. And this is also, Gardens for Good is another program where seniors can accumulate hours to apply towards that senior tax credit. And I lied, there's actually one more slide. And this was a new project that I took on sort of by default this year, but it was good. And with a lot of help from Lisa Maroney from Business Development. I want to give a shout out to Lisa because she really was my behind the scenes right-hand girl on this. But we were approached to get a farmer's market started back up in Chelmsford. We hadn't had one since the pandemic. And so Lisa and I put our heads together and decided we want to try to do things a little bit differently, expand from a simple produce farmer's market to include artisan crafters and bakers. And so we had every Saturday, starting from Memorial Day, going through Columbus Day weekend. We had vendors on the common. We had farmers, bakers, artisan crafters. We had some community resource folks, so we had some people from CTI that were there, and some other organizations in town that were able to give out information. We also had at times live entertainment. We also ran concurrent to several different events that ran on the Common on Saturdays. The Day of Peace. We had our first annual Sober Fest run in conjunction with us this year, and then the Health Department's hugely popular Fall Festival, which was the weekend before Columbus Day weekend. So all of those were very, very popular, and I got word this morning, this is very exciting, that we were just approved to accept SNAP benefits for the market for next year. So that means that that's another step towards increasing access to healthy foods for our residents in the community, because those who are eligible for SNAP benefits can now will be able to use those at the market in exchange for really fresh produce, locally grown. So that's really exciting. We will start soliciting. We're in the process of updating our vendor agreement for next year, when we'll start soliciting for vendors coming in January, and we're looking to have an even bigger and better market this coming summer. And that's it. Any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
On the transportation program.
Yeah.
So you're just about to launch it?
Mm-hmm.
And how much time do you think you need to be able to come back and say, we've got some data to kind of say it's going to be a high demand thing?
Yeah.
And to know, like, long term, if it's going to continue, what's needed to sustain it?
Sure. I would say conservatively at least 6 months for that. I think that's what we talked about
Yeah.
a year ago when I was here too. So yeah, I would say at least 6 months, and we already have plans in place. Luckily, the software that we're using tracks lots of data for us, so it will be very easy to pull that data, compile reports, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thanks, Jen.
Great. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Hey, Paul.
Okay, next up, we're joined online by Town Engineer Anthony Rapucci. It's the monthly Traffic Safety Committee report, as we've now ended the construction season, but we've got a few ongoing issues. Welcome, Tony.
Good evening, everyone. A couple of the current actions that we have going on are the police department with traffic enforcements and speed monitoring along several areas throughout town. The Chelmsford Center and Brick House, the rail trail, needed some parking signage improvements that both the fire department and police department were able to work with Brick House and to get that, are working with them on those improvements. As far as the pending actions, we still have the traffic improvements for Golden Cove and Billerica Road. I have not heard back from Mass DOT on a completion date at this time. So I would anticipate this being completed closer to in the spring versus later this fall. As far as completed actions, we did add the do not block intersection signage to all of the mast arms throughout Chelmsford Center as you approach from different directions, and we resolved several resident traffic concerns that came up within the last month or so. Does anyone have any questions?
Short and sweet.
Thank you, Tony.
No, thanks.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Have a good night. And then finally, our Public Works Director, Christine Clancy, is joining us remotely for the monthly ARPA projects update. Good evening, Christine.
Good evening. On this agenda is both a cover letter providing the update for the November ARPA project. Also, there's a spreadsheet, a detailed spreadsheet that lists all 46 items itemized and how we've procured it to date. So I guess I can go over some of the highlights of the spreadsheet. And here it's shown in the cover letter. So the first update is that we did hire an assistant facilities manager. We're happy to report that. He is starting at DPW on Monday, December 12th. And this addition of the staff member should be really help push forward some of the ARPA projects, specifically the DPW HVAC related ARPA projects. His name is Matt Schweizer. He's local. He has about 20 years, over 20 years experience working on facilities projects, more on the consulting side, but we really think he'd be a great fit to our team, and we're excited for him to join in December. The next item just to go over is we did, I guess for the entire spreadsheet, we did add a column. It was discussed in last month's meeting to show the overall encumbered amount for each project. So in that, we did update the first line item to show, I know it's hard to see on the computer, but we updated that number. So that number is listed as 591,000 is encumbered, and that really reflects the current contract that we have that expires this coming June, and also the salary of the assistant facilities project manager. In June of 2023, we will be looking to procure an additional HVAC contract for the next couple of years. And that's where we would potentially look for the remainder of the funds that we show of the 591. There's a couple hundred thousand or 150,000 left still to procure potentially.
May I ask a question on
Sure,
that?
please, go ahead.
Sure.
So I guess my head was in a different philosophical space in terms of how you treat reserve that you create through this, and I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. So like when I asked for this column, what I was thinking was in June, I think it was June 27th, I went back and looked it up, we were projecting a $650,000 overrun, if you will, because of procurement issues and things like that, and costs escalating in the supply chain from what we originally voted on and improved in January. And so when we set our goals this year, we said, well, let's keep a close eye on that and let's review it monthly and see where we're going in real time. And now in this report in November, because of some of those same supply chain issues, I'm guessing that's what it is, we're saying now we're up to a $700,000 overrun potentially. And so now we have a line item, number 1, that says, I'm going to come in under what I projected by $140,000. My school of thought would be take that $140,000 and throw it into reserve line and say, okay, how are we going to use that to offset the $700,000 overrun that we're projecting? But what I'm hearing is we're making a decision now that how we're going to spend that $140,000, right? Because I thought what we were doing was managing the projects that were approved and see where we land with it, and then we start talking about what do we approve next. And it seems like there's been a decision made that we're going to apply that $140,000 to the next contract, whereas when I had heard about the $140,000 at our last meeting, I thought, oh, we should be taking that down to reserve and applying it against some other overruns in this same set of projects that's already been approved. So I just wanted to put that out there because I'm not sure like what the board's philosophy is or how you and Christine envisioned this going, but it just seems to me to be premature to say we're going to apply that $140,000 to the next contract when we're still facing $700,000 in overruns on what we've already approved.
I think there's maybe some confusion in terms of the columns. The amount spent / invoice, which is the penultimate column, is not the balance available. I mean, you, for example,
I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong column.
Let's go to, okay, if you go to line 2, we're, we it's a $52,000 procurement, and the full amount's been encumbered, and then $37,000 is the amount that's been spent in invoice to date. And then similarly, if you go down the thing.
But what I'm looking at, Paul, is the difference between the budget on line 1, The budget was $730,695.
Yep.
And you're projecting that you're going to spend $591.
No, that's the amount that's currently been encumbered, is what Christine
Well,
just
all right,
explained.
well, tell me,
Okay, yeah.
how much are you saying you're going to apply to the next contract? What's that number, and where's that coming from?
If you go to the next column, which is the estimated escalation price adjustment, you see it's 0.
Yeah,
And then if you go down, as you said, if you note that full column, that's the $700,000. That's the amount that we say that we're, we project at this point that we're
we're talking past each other, I think.
Right.
So I'm reading the sentence in the cover letter
Mm-hmm.
that says, "The remaining balance," this is under item 2.
Right.
"The remaining balance will be considered for another HVAC maintenance contract to be awarded in fiscal '24 and potentially fiscal '25.
Right.
And I believe that's what Christine said. So that says to me that you're expecting to create reserve on that line, that you're not expecting to spend $730,000,
No,
that
what-
there's going to be some balance. And I'm just asking philosophically, how are we handling this when we come in under on a line item?
If I can, I think this one line item is unique. This one, all the other projects have, I think, more defined scopes. This was just school support for HVAC.
Right.
So this one line item, we are projecting in, I guess, a potential underrun. But knowing that we are going to have to continue to have HVAC contracts, I guess it wasn't an assumption, but we would continue to apply the same amount for the same scope, but just in an additional year. The other items, if we're projecting underruns or overruns, those are being tracked and I guess, held in that reserve that you're mentioning. But this number one is such a large amount of money. And honestly, too, if you look at the amount spent, that is updated to this month. It says $140,000. We only have 6 or 7 months left to December. We might not even spend in the entirety of $591. That's what we're contracted. That's what the contract says, but
Right.
that's like a not to exceed amount. It actually might come in less than that.
So-
We
so-
won't know until we get closer towards that time frame.
So in the language I speak, if you could just be patient for a minute, what you're telling me is what you actually incur for expenses, you're expecting to be $591,000 or less.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It could be less.
Against what was budgeted as $730,000, $695.
Through the end of this fiscal year. That line.
So what was the
Right.
scope for the
That's,
730?
was basically as far out as we could foresee. And the reason for that was, if you remember, the problem that we had is we were in COVID and we didn't have sufficient HVAC resources to keep all the school classrooms and facilities and other town buildings with an immediate response, or basically rapid response, to keep those systems functioning. So that's why that large amount of money was set aside, so that we could contract mostly to get people in here to provide the immediate response because of the concerns with the viral conditions, or air exchange and so forth, in the schools. So my understanding of that is, yes, we have a contract that runs to the end of this fiscal year, but there's been, the expectation, at least in my mind, is that would continue into the new year. That can be reassessed, because at the time with COVID, we expected that COVID was going to be with us into the future. We've all been sort of caught off guard so far in the last couple of months about the lack of COVID spread, across the society and community. So that's why that one, as Christine said, was a unique category, because we didn't have the resources to respond to issues that arose with HVAC across the 28 buildings of the town, and that's what that was for. So I think, as Christine said earlier, that's a unique category. Yes, we don't have a contract before the end of this year. I'm open to it, and we can discuss whether that needs to continue after the end of this fiscal year, and we can revert back to pre-COVID conditions. But the problem that we had was, we didn't have the ability, because our contract, I think, was only 2 days a week, did we have somebody available as a contractor to respond to COVID concerns. And this funding enabled that to go to almost an as-needed response on the other days of the week.
And there was a basis of estimate that got you to 730,
Exactly.
695, and I guess I don't remember whether or not that went past June of '23. I can't imagine that it did, because you're not going to have enough to go for another fiscal year at the current burn rate.
As I said, we don't know.
So-
As I said, we don't know. I
So
can tell
that's
you it's a
just-
lot.
That's just why I was,
It's a lot less, but I'm open to that one.
But should it be redefined and then maybe
Right.
another line item come in?
But we can do that. All I'm saying is.
Because that would make sense to me, even if you went to, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
is it okay? If you went like to a line item 1A, of what else, so closing out one,
And
but
then we-
1A might be the balance that could be considered.
And then we approve
Sure.
1A in the next
Right.
round.
I agree, but
Yes.
I just want to point out, of the 46 lines, this is a unique line item.
Okay.
Oh, I don't,
So then-
I was
so then-
confused.
So then we decide whether we do a 1A, or we
Sure.
just take it to
That's fine.
reserve
Yeah.
and apply
And we
it.
can do that as we get
Right,
closer. Sure.
because with
Thank
everything
you.
that's moving and all the increases, who knows where this may end up
Exactly.
in a priority.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Just to continue with some of the updates from since last month, is item 3, modular RTU replacement at the high school, McCarthy and Parker schools. So DPW has received technical specifications for this project. That is under review, and we will be preparing a bid to get out this December, and a bid opening likely in January. Items 14, 17, and 20 on the spreadsheet. These are all testing and balancing projects at various town buildings. DPW has coordinated with the consultant, and we will be receiving a proposal to provide technical specifications for that work this December. And then a bid will be prepared for February of 2023. We were planning that the actual work would take place in the summer, which is a good time so I think, some of these are maybe school buildings, but this work will occur in the summer. Items 30, 31,
may I ask a
and
question?
33.
Hold on, Christine.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question on that? The 14,
Sure.
17, and to 20? So you said that you've got a contractor and they're going to give us a bid. Are we putting these out for multiple bid, are we putting these out for bid to try to get the most competitive price, or is there only one qualified contractor that we work with? I'm
It's a
not
consultant-
understanding what that means.
It's a consultant to help us draft the specifications,
The
to then put out to a competitive
Oh,
bid.
okay.
Right.
So, because it says we will receive a proposal in December, so it's the proposal to provide the technical specs so that you can put that
Yes.
into a bid document?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and we did talk about bidding it as one for this. It does make sense to potentially bid as one. That's where we currently are targeting, but we do need to confirm that with the consultant's recommendations, because they do need to go in and review or they have, actually, I think it was this past week, reviewed the spaces and then providing the technical specifications.
Okay.
As of right now, we are potentially doing one bid, but that will be determined once we receive the technical specifications.
I misread it. Go ahead. Christine.
And then sorry, any other questions on this one?
No, go ahead.
Items 30, 31, and 33, these are sewer assessment projects. We have received draft reports, and those are and I think they also were recently presented at the previous select board meeting. Those are under review, those are draft reports, so we're just trying to finalize those, and then we will be receiving those final invoices. And then item 32, this is where I think the price has increased in terms of the overall, what we're assuming for project overruns. So we're estimating overall for the ARPA program an overrun of $705,000. And it jumped this month because we did look at we are looking at all pump station projects, so overall CIP program, but the Kensington Road Pump Station project is an ARPA project. And just with the industry trends, we are seeing increased costs. And so we did escalate this to 30%, and that is reflected in this month's update. So overall, we have $7.9 million in allocated ARPA funds. Of that, $4.2 million, or 53%, of the total allocated amount has been procured. And that does leave $2.58 million in ARPA funds that has not been allocated, We are currently projecting a $705,000 project overrun. Are there any questions? I don't want to go over each line item, the 46, but that highlights really the major updates since last month, especially now with the Assistant Facilities Project Manager starting in the next month. We should really start to see these projects move forward into the bidding stage and then eventually procurement. So over this winter and early in the spring, we'll see a lot of procurement updates.
So I would just check for the next round on whether you have all the line items in this spreadsheet, because we have things that were funded that go higher than number 46. And I'm looking.
I can check.
I'm looking at like the June 27th list. So the Westford Roads grease trap was number 56. There was sewer infiltration investigation and reconstruction was number 48. So I don't know if they fell off of this or if they're not in that number. I also couldn't make the math work. So if you look on amount of non-budgeted ARPA funds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the $705,000 overrun is already included above that line. Is that correct? It doesn't come off of the 2.6 million.
Right, if you add up all
Okay.
all 46 projects,
Yeah.
any escalation should add up to $705,000.
There's some projects we funded that are missing from the spreadsheet, I guess is all I'm saying. So I think
They're
we
on
gotta
here,
go.
but they're just in a different order.
Yeah, the
Oh, they're in a
Westford Road is-
different order?
Westford Road is 26, and the infiltration's 33.
What, did we change the numbers?
I don't know.
So
We
yeah, this
must have.
spreadsheet was updated, because I think there might have been some projects presented that weren't funded. That might have been the case. I can go back to that original spreadsheet. But this spreadsheet
That's
is-
correct. We numbered every single project line,
Yep.
whether or not it was funded. So that's where I guess where I made a mistake, because I was looking for the same correlation to project numbers.
Got it.
That
And
we
they
would be
chunked them off.
skipping them, and
Right.
I think what you guys did was you rearranged.
Ones that went
So
to
I'm just doing
CPC
these mental
paste back in
gymnastics,
there.
trying to find
Like Pat said, the
everything.
ones that went to CPC
are not here.
are off the list.
Right.
Yeah, that's okay,
Yeah.
but,
They were numbered, they were part
numbered
of
as
our
well,
number.
yeah.
right. But, so we renumbered is what happened, but you're confident everything's in here? We might
So
want to just check. It's just.
When I first established or created the spreadsheet, I did confirm that it added up to 7.901, and that is the total allocated amount to date. We can go back and check for the next month update, but we did do a double check. So are you saying that it didn't add up to 7.9 million? 'Cause that was in the spreadsheet.
No,
that
I'm saying what I didn't add it up, Christine. I was trying to do some mental gymnastics tracking to the list that we created in January that we then reviewed in June. And I think what happened is the project, we had the project numbers sequentially, whether or not we funded them. So,
Sure.
for example, I think what happened was your number column is different. You renumbered because you didn't.
Correct.
You didn't hold to the same project number. If something was unfunded, you probably changed the sequence or moved it around. Like.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
These are just sequentially ordered in the, I guess it's a different spreadsheet, but we did confirm that it all adds up to 7.9 million, and that was reflected in the spreadsheet that Darlene had prepared.
Yeah, my guess is the.
And I think, yeah, the renumbering is largely because of the projects that either went to CPC or for other reasons fell off or weren't funded through ARPA.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Do you see Westford Road in here, Ken?
Yes,
Yeah, it's on there, number
30.
26.
26, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you.
Town manager report?
Sure, just a few brief items this evening. The first one is on the capital budget. I've included in your packet the capital budget requests and the project schedule, as well as all the line item details that have come in. As you've one would note that the requests are totaling $6.77 million, and we anticipate a $4 million capital planning request at the end of the day in terms of, for budgeting purposes. The capital plan committee is, and you can see it lists the total of
It's 16 million.
I believe there's, updated, there's 30 projects. Their capital plan committee is going to meet on Wednesday, November 30th at 6 PM virtually, and then the following night on December 1st. And then the expectation is they'll come back on the 8th for discussion, deliberations, and their committee's recommendations. We're a little behind the schedule for where we would be, and that's, yeah, as your board may be aware, our finance director, John Souza, has been out of the office on medical matter. However, he's obviously been putting this together remotely. So we do have this. I wanted to share it with you, and again, share it with the community. And again, people are welcome to virtually attend our meetings, and then I'll keep the board updated. But as you can see, two things have happened. Similar to, we have a number of capital requests for our community, as well as the impacts of inflationary adjustments to the costs reflected in the current market. So there are going to be certainly items that are deferred from this list, to reach us to a manageable state. The next item that I have is received an email request, and I provided you with a copy of the email chain from Alex Johnston. And his request is to rename Nabnasset Drive. And as he first wrote to me on November 6th, he's seeking to have the street named after his family, since the street goes through many of his family's old properties and two abutting properties that were also owned by his family. And one of the properties that is still occupied by a relative that's been in the family for over 100 years. And it goes back to the Patnod family, which has been deeply rooted in Chelmsford for generations. I checked with town council in terms of how do we go about this request, considering this request, and he said basically, Paul Haverty explained, it's basically similar to what the town had to do with Stedman, the spelling of Stedman Street, i.e. it would have to go before town meeting for consideration. And as we did with Stedman Street, it was a suggestion by council, and certainly makes sense, that we would notify, if it comes for consideration, that we would notify the property owners on Nabnasset Drive of the request and get their feedback through that process. So I explained to him that our next regularly scheduled town meeting is at the spring annual town meeting, and that I'd be willing to facilitate this, to move this forward for town consideration. So I wanted to bring the board up to date on this request.
How many residents on that street, do you know?
Yeah, I think there were 8 lots or so, and obviously they're very 6 or 8, and then they were recently,
Right.
I think
acquired.
5 or 6 are sold,
Yeah,
right?
and it was just too bad we didn't have this,
right.
a month or two ago, because we could have just, brought the request for consideration at town meeting. So that's the request that's here before you, and obviously as we move closer towards town meeting, obviously we invite Mr. Johnson to come in and address the board and then the community, and then ultimately perhaps the town meeting. The next item I have is just.
Excuse me, can I ask a question before we move on, Paul?
Sure.
This is Carly Connorine. I'm with the DEIC. I just, when would we be able to provide some input as well through the DEIC on this change? Would it be at that spring meeting that you're referring to?
Sure, you can present it to me and the board sooner. I'm not aware of any DEIC matters pertaining to this. I don't know.
It's a Nipmuc people name. It's tied to the Nipmuc people.
Okay. I don't know the basis of how Nabnasset Drive was named, like how that name was chosen for that roadway.
Nor do I. I just know that it is tied to the Nipmuc people.
I understand the word Nabnasset is. I just didn't know if that was, if somebody had an affiliation with the golf course in Westford, or if they just, I don't know where the name came from, other than it came through the planning board process, so
This
I
was
will.
recently named road.
Right, recently named, yeah. I don't know, I'll check back with the planning board, perhaps they have some insight as to how the name arose. We don't have in this community, we don't have a list of street names that are advanced, I guess, for lack of a better term, for either historic, diversity, or other purposes. Generally, what I've seen in this community is the person who's bringing the project throws the name out. And that happens in some other communities as well. But what I will do at this point, and I'd like you to do that as well, Carl, if you can, if you could find out some origins to what the name of the road was.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I don't know the origin of how they came up with the name for the road. I just know the origin of the name.
Right, and I'm not going to dispute that. Very clear. So I guess that's something that we can consider that as well.
We'll get some more information.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
The next thing to provide the board is since our last meeting, the Governor Baker has signed the economic development bill. All the earmarks that I reported to you at your last meeting that were included in the legislature's economic development bill for the town of Chelmsford and basically across the Commonwealth were included and remain and are now part of the law. So we have available to us now the $150,000 for improvements to the playing field and playground equipment at Varney Playground, $150,000 for the excessive wastewater flow system, $250,000 for the operation of a PFAS remediation system, and $200,000 to support the operations of the Chelmsford Center for the Arts. The next step will be I should be receiving contract documents, much like we saw for the Housing Choice Grant, and I will keep you updated when that happens. Obviously, the administration is in a transition period right now, post-election, and I will do my best to move these along. But I just wanted to let the board and the community know that those items are now now part of the state law and available to the community. So the next item I have is just two brief grant awards, final two items. One was from the governor's office. The town of Chelmsford has been awarded a Sustainable Materials Recovery Program grant in the amount of $16,800. So again, we commend the recycling committee and Christopher Haley for their efforts there. And then finally, the town was awarded a grant from the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association in the amount of $9,987, and that was for safety considerations for fall protection and fall arrest equipment. And again, I want to thank the Safety Committee and Steve Servin for assembling that application in terms of, providing safety, particularly on roof areas and other matters of OSHA compliance. So that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have meeting minutes. First is the November 3rd. Are there any amendments before we take a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes from November 3rd of the Select Board, 2022.
Second.
As presented.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. November 7th, are there any amendments? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from the November 7th, 2022 Select Board meeting as presented.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
5-0. Okay, next up, we have liaison reports. Mark?
Yeah, just to take up what I actually presented at our last meeting, the zero waste day that we had at McCarthy and next door over at the administration offices. They have some statistics in on that, and they just wanted me to mention those. They had 374 cars that participated going through that, and it's a brand-new effort that hasn't been done before, that actually participated, and they actually raised $510 in cash for the food pantry while they were there. The bike connector received 80 bikes. There were 12 large boxes of food that were donated, and the Bay State Books collection bins were filled, and the Friends of the Library collected many books for their next sale. The Habitat Restore and Simple Recycling Companies also filled their trucks as well. And one of the things that they wanted to mention is that Karen Willis, who's on the committee, she led this new Zero Waste Day and spent a lot of time and a lot of planning to get this done. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, it ran really well because I was in line twice there. So I watched the whole thing and I sat through it, and it did great. It was smooth, and they collected a lot. So kudos to the team, and kudos to Karen Willis for leading that.
Thank you, Mark. George? Ken?
I'm good.
Just a couple ribbon cuttings that, since our last meeting. First was Buff City Soap up in Drum Hill. They let you come in and make your own soap and add your own ingredients. Pretty interesting place. Should stop by. And also Game Time Sports and Fitness, also up in North Chelmsford. They have batting cages that you can use all winter. Work on your swing. So
Great.
that's all I have.
Thank you. Our next regular meeting is on December 5th, and we hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving holiday, and we'll see you after that. And with that, I'll take a motion.
I will make a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss strategy with respect to the collective bargaining with the Police Superior Officers Sergeants Union, strategy with respect to collective bargaining of the Public Safety Dispatchers Union, the Police Patrol Union, and the Firefighters Union, not to return to open session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call. Mark?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Pat?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
And I vote aye.